Hey there, and welcome to the weekly live Common Sense show. And I am waiting for the stream to heat up a bit. And I wanted to just get everyone in the room while I'm waiting for this. Tonight, we are talking about the Great Resignation 2.0. That's what we're talking about today. The Great Resignation. And then we have some videos that we're going to take a look at, some TikTok videos because I like those, about bare minimum Mondays, quiet quitting. This all relates to the Great Resignation, how employees are feeling in the current market, and if you're a small business owner, what this means for you, and where I predict the whole employment market is going. So I'm going to play the intro, and then when I come back, we are going to talk about the Great Resignation 2.0. It is happening likely by the end of the year. We're going to discuss 34 seconds, and I'm right back. Okay, welcome to the Common Sense Show, and I am ready to share my screen with you because I'm going to show you. This is where it all started right here. All right, let me just make this bigger. I'm bigified. Oh, 1 second. Wrong keyboard. There we go. Oh, I can't find my glasses, so you're going to have to bear with me. All right, so basically what happened, I would say about a week ago or so, there was a survey that was published by Resume Builder. Resume Builder helps individuals build their resumes, as is indicated in the name, create cover letters and all the other stuff. And so they did a survey about employees because that's their whole job. And what they found was that almost 30% of workers plan on quitting by the end of 2024. Now, if you remember back in 2021, there was what's called the Great Resignation. This was part one. The Great Resignation happened over the course of a few months. About 47.4 million Americans across the country for a period of about 10 months in 2021. So about 4 million a month were quitting their jobs, like after COVID. And it was like, everything kind of opened back up. Gradually, people started going back to work. And then all of a sudden, there were just massive waves of people quitting, right? Like it was like going like wildfire. People just quitting left, people quitting right, and 47 million people ended up quitting. And that posed a massive issue in the labor market because obviously with that many people leave the labor pool, the labor market, then you end up in the territory of how do I who am I going to hire if I'm a small business, and where am I going to get skilled work and all this other stuff, right? There's a lot of considerations. Plus, obviously, it overworks the people who are still there. Customer service goes down. There's a lot of effects on the market when people quit. But there was and of course, couple the fact that people were kind of leaving their house again on a regular basis for the first time, and there was a lot of COVID money out there, and people's bank accounts were full of COVID money, and so they didn't have to rush back necessarily they could take that time. People really started thinking about for the first time what their quality of life was like, not having to sit in traffic going into the city or out to the suburbs or wherever they worked, not having to sit on that train. Instead, they could work from the comfort of their living room in their basketball shorts, right? That was working during COVID. And of course, everything changed. But fast forward, now over 3 years since the pandemic started and, of course, ended officially. And this poll that was put out there, which we're going to go over, suggests that employees are not necessarily done with this concept of the Great Resignation, leaving the job. And of course, this is being led by Gen Z. Now, there are already some, shall we say, perceptions of Gen Z. And of course, every generation has perceptions of people who are younger, but Gen Z in particular has a perception when it comes to work ethic and like how much they work in certain kinds of jobs that they want to do versus the jobs that are available. So let's take a look at this article by Resume Builder. It's titled, "Nearly 3 in 10 workers plan on quitting by the end of 2024, signaling Great Resignation 2.0. It says, spurred by the COVID-19 pandemic and subsequent stimulus checks, an unprecedented number of workers quit their jobs during 2021 and 2022. Though the labor market stabilized over the past 2 years, some speculate we may be entering a period of a second Great Resignation. In July, ResumeBuilder.com surveyed 1,000 full-time workers to find out how many are planning to quit their jobs in 2024. So here are the key findings. 28% of workers are likely to quit their jobs in 2024. 28% is a massive, massive number. Gen Zers and young millennials. You notice, so when they talk about millennials, I just want to let you know, technically I'm a millennial, but I am what they call a geriatric millennial or a zillennial, which is between the mixture of Gen X and millennial. So we're not considered young millennials. Young millennials and Gen Zers have way more in common than geriatric millennials, because when we grew up in an analog world. None of this consumer electronic technology existed at that time. And we were still using rotary phones to do a lot of different things. Anyways, so it's higher salary tops list of priorities. Imagine that. 1/3 of workers dissatisfied with work modality. And finally, the service industry has the higher percentage of workers planning to quit. People do not want to serve. It says nearly 1/3 of workers will quit in 2024. Among the 1,000 full-time workers surveyed, a total of 28% say they are somewhat, 21%, or highly likely, 7%, to quit their jobs this year. Interestingly, an equal percentage of respondents, 28%, report quitting one or more jobs during the original Great Resignation of 2021 and 2022. Imagine that. These people, by the way, who plan on quitting, have already quit their jobs in 2021 and 2022. Wow. So they've already quit their jobs, and now they're planning to do it again. Article continues that when looking at differences among age groups, a higher percentage of Gen Zers and young millennials say that they are likely to quit versus respondents in older age groups of 18 to 24-year-olds. 37% are somewhat or highly likely to quit their jobs this year, as are 35% of 25 to 34. It says younger workers tend to switch jobs at higher rates because they are trying to determine what type of function, industry, and environment would work best for them, explains Julia Toothaker. That's quite a name. Resume and career strategist at Resume Builders. Along with that, you can increase your salary quicker when you change jobs every few years, and those early career years are the best time to do that. And so here's a statistic based off of this, of course, based off of this poll that they did. But you see this? Somewhat likely to quit, 18 to 24-year-olds are way up there. Way up there. Highly likely to quit, 25 to 34 is actually higher than 18 to 24. What I find interesting, somewhat likely to quit, of course, are the people between the ages, of 45 to 54, but then it kind of bumps up again, 55 plus. This must be retirement age. So maybe they're kind of more likely to be closer to retirement and less likely to need the money, which is probably why they're more likely to maybe be a little higher than the 45 to 54-year-olds. But highly unlikely to quit are people who are generally more mature, 45 to 55 plus. So that's kind of what we're dealing with in terms of the data. It says half of quitters cite low pay. When asked why they are likely to quit their jobs this year, the most common reason why respondents gave was because of low pay, 56%. The next category was the desire for better benefits, 44%. And then the last or lowest category was overly stressful work. There are so many factors that go into pay structure, function, industry, location, and company size, says Toothaker. That name is kind of crazy. Better pay is available, but you might need to compromise on something to get it. Right now, employers have the most power when it comes to pay. The layoffs we've seen, primarily in the tech industry, have flooded the market with certain functions, and depending on the organization, they are being inundated with candidates. So here we have people who are on the market. Like there's so many people on the market. And if you actually go on LinkedIn and you look at the jobs that are available, one of the things that you'll see is for some of these more like high paying jobs, probably the jobs that these like kids, I hate to call them kids and sound like an old guy, but I guess I'm going to, that are available they get like 100 applicants. You can actually see, excuse me, I keep yawning because it's been a long day at this computer. You can actually see on LinkedIn how many applicants there are for a job. And on average, what I've seen when I looked at LinkedIn after this article came out was that there are a minimum of 100, 200 applicants. I don't even know how these companies are able to distill all the applicants. I can't imagine that if you're applying after it says 100 applicants that you'll be chosen or anywhere near the running. You probably have to be out immediately as soon as that listing goes live to actually get the job. And of course, given the state of the job market, employers have most of the power right now. And so given that situation, it means that people who are going to be quitting their jobs, if they do choose to do so right now, are going to be on the market for a long period of time. So here is the data visual for the reasons why workers are likely to quit. Obviously, pay is too low is number one, want better benefits, but technically better benefits are a part of overall compensation. So you need to take a look at both of those things. Too stressful. I'm not sure what that means. It's a bit amorphous when they just put too stressful. I mean, I generally know, obviously, what too stressful means. I just don't know how it applies to a job that requires a person to think and be slightly stressed out when they actually have to go to it, given that there is decisions often that need to be made and they're dealing with other people. Lack of advancement. Now, this one shouldn't even be on there. If business owners who are hiring these workers are doing their job, then they should be road mapping a way for employees to be able to actually see how they can grow with the firm. This is a problem for me because lack of advancement, in my opinion, just means that a company is not trying to figure out why it is or how it is that they can actually grow or scale their firm. They're only looking to maximize revenue without having their team participate in the revenue gains. Workload too heavy, that makes sense. Change industries, fair enough. I mean, that's more of like a philosophical personal choice. Don't agree with workplace policies. It's like you're going to work for someone. It is what it is, man. Their job, their rules. I guess that's why they're leaving, but still. Want an easier job. Like, really? Odd. To care for children, that is a noble goal, and 100% that's a great reason. And of course, workplace pushing technology. If this is the case, like maybe in sales or something where they're using AI or diffusing AI in their business operation, then you're going to see stuff like this kind of pop up more and more. And this probably relates more to why people who are slightly older did this, like are leaving, but it's not that many people. The population of this survey was about 277. Okay, so it says 1 in 10 will quit without having another job lined up. Now that to me is absolutely wild. Crazy. It doesn't make any sense at all why a person would leave their job without having another one lined up. It says among respondents likely to quit their jobs this year, 1 in 10 appeared to be frustrated enough with their current job that they will quit regardless of having their next job in place. However, the majority seem to want to avoid this potentially risky situation, as 66% of those planning to quit say they are currently applying for new jobs, while 32% plan to begin their search soon. When asked about their top priorities for the new job, higher salary, again, tops the list. This could directly relate to the fact that prices across the board are up. Inflation has come down overall in the marketplace, but inflation kind of hanging right now is still a bit of an issue for people across the board in the areas of life that are expensive. And of course, housing and some of the basic fundamental resources of life are really expensive right now. But almost 45% of respondents in the survey had higher salary, and that I just take that to mean that that's just kind of representative of the cost of living right now, and there's no way that their current job is willing to keep or can keep pace with the cost of living increases for their particular lifestyle. So that's kind of something worth noting. It says 1 in 3 want a different work modality. Of all workers surveyed, 35% say they would prefer a different work modality than what they currently have. The largest gap between current and preferred modality comes from fully in-person workers, 40% of whom say they would prefer hybrid, 25%, or fully remote, 15% positions. Now, this is interesting to me because I thought that fully remote would actually be higher, but I think that people actually enjoy coming in, seeing their workmates, maybe a little bit, and then going back home, getting the best of both worlds, the camaraderie that comes from being in the office, but also kind of beating it, coming back home, maybe working once or twice a week in person. And this is growing. Honestly, the great part about hybrid work, I think, and I almost got so I'm a fractional executive, as most of you already know, and I was considering maybe taking a fractional role. Didn't work out, but in a different state, because fractional work like once a week, you can just fly there, fly back. It makes it a lot easier to be hybrid, like 1 day a week or once a month. It says 29% of hybrid workers would prefer fully remote, 25%. So 24% of the 29% would prefer fully remote, or fully in person, 4% of jobs. So there's some people out there who would prefer not to be by themselves at home, fully remote. And perhaps if you're single and you don't really often get to meet people, being at home is not preferable. If you're single and young and you don't often meet people, then one of the worst things you could probably do is be home and be fully remote. It says 24% of fully remote workers would prefer hybrid, 17%, or fully in-person job, 6%. So there is a place for people who prefer fully in-person or hybrid work. It says employers will offer remote hybrid positions and options when it becomes difficult to find candidates. Comments Toothaker. This is an employer market, which is why you're seeing so many RTO mandates. RTO stands for return to office. When the market shifts back to candidates, we'll see more perks. Companies that aren't well known or struggle to hire might use flexible schedules, bonuses, and remote work options as a way to entice candidates, but it's not a widespread tactic currently. Here's the thing. Hospitality has always been tough. Service-based industries are always going to be harder because they require you to be in person to engage with people, and they also require you to kind of deal with people's different levels of people's attitudes. So that typically corresponds to a higher turnover. We're about to talk about service industry right now. But given that a perk-based employment with a company that's a service-based or hospitality-based company is going to be crucial in um, in changing the game. So it says here, service industry most likely to be affected. Among industries that had at least 40 respondents, the service hospitality industry is 35%, tech industry 34%, and finance industry 34% had the highest percentages of respondents who say they are likely to quit their jobs in 2024. So that's not really surprising. I mean, look at the tech industry. They always have massive layoffs, them in the finance industry, I feel like. And then the service and hospitality industry just has a massive turnover, probably the highest turnover of any industries that I can think of. So service is number one, finance is number two, tech is number three, healthcare number five, construction number six, manufacturing number seven, transportation number eight, business number nine, retail number 10, and education number 11. So in my opinion, how do you keep your employees? You have to have a creative and robust employee reward system, and you should provide your employees with perks that are directly related to the company that they're working for. So if they have a very labor intensive job and it requires, wear and tear on their body, perhaps giving them an option to have a perk of some kind of benefit, like some kind of recovery membership or a massage therapist that comes in, or something that actually would drive their experience with the company to a higher level, that takes care of their body, that helps them promote well-being and health. Give them proper PPE so they don't get injured on the job. All that stuff is important to connecting with your employees and making them feel valuable. And of course, I'm a big fan of cutting your employees in as they help the business grow. They should also see financial reward for that. So this was the survey that just came out that launched 1,000 ships. Now, interestingly enough, this story was picked up by other news outlets, like Fox News here, which talks about this. And it said it kind of just gives a recap of kind of what we were talking about. And here's the video that goes on. We'll wait for this ad to finish up, and then we'll go to it.
Day that I've been doing for the past several weeks.
A lazy girl job is something that you can basically quiet quit.
The 9-to-5 schedule in general is crazy.
Crazy. Gen Z and millennial workers sure challenged their bosses this past year.
So how should employers respond in 2024? Ramsey Solutions career coach Ken Coleman joins us now. Ken is a father of two daughters, 18 and 22. I'm just going to reserve my own comments. How should parents and employers deal with this?
Well, they need to understand that they've got to mentor and coach these young employees. It's not as simple as just they show up and they know what to do. And that's on the parents, by the way. So we parents have to be careful on what we say because we collectively have allowed this environment. But the key here is you're going to have to coach these younger employees more than you have any previous generation. Right. And that's leadership. So welcome to the game.
And Ken, the thing is, a lot of these young
It's true. When the demographic changes, you have to step up and coach.
Have been under COVID rules where they work from home and stuff like that. The 4-day work week is probably going to be a thing.
It absolutely is going to be a thing. I don't know when, but it's been tested for a 6-month trial in London, England, and it came out pretty conclusive that productivity did not dip. It's also being tested in the United States as well. So I think that's going to be industry specific, and I think it's going to be leader specific. What I mean by that is you can't just shove 5 days of work into 4 days without some systems, and it's got to be advantageous to that specific industry. So
this is where I come in. 4-day work week, systems and processes. If you want to have a 4-day work week, you have to have really solid business systems. And if you want really solid business systems, you should talk to me about coaching. Micah-Logan.com. You can reserve a consultation with me and we could talk about the needs of your business. But business systems, when it comes to converting your business to a 4-day work week, are going to be absolutely imperative and critical. But I have heard some great success with businesses going to 4-day work weeks. I have a buddy who owns an HVAC company, and he he went to a 4-day work week, and he said that the employees absolutely love it. He's been doing it for over a year now. It looks like I think he's going to keep it. I think he's still doing it. So 4-day work weeks may become the norm. So I'm actually interested in following the 4-day work week trend to see how much fire it catches and whether or not businesses respond to it, because their revenue doesn't really dip.
See how that develops.
I mean, Ken, it's funny to watch those clips. It's funny, we watch the girl who's crying because she has to work
Bare
from
minimum
9 to
Monday.
5. Yeah, and this girl's talking about taking breaks and working, overextending yourself for minimal pay. We all did it, so we all think the way we did it was the best way. And so when we look at the next generation, we're worried about them. But do they have it all figured out? I mean, we did all.
Maybe we did it wrong.
Maybe we did it wrong, because they're saying 38% of Gen Zers would rather have a middle-class life if they can work fewer than 40 hours. There is something to be said for that.
Dolly
You go
Parton
home
got
with
it
your
right.
kids.
Yeah.
Working 9 to 5.
Yeah, I think this is a very good point. Two things are happening here. Number one, what we see on TikTok does not represent the entire generation. I think we've got to be careful to paint this generation with a broad brush. I'm raising 3 Gen Zers right now. Here's what I think. I think that there are a lot of young people that will work hard and will bust it and get after it. But the second phenomenon you mentioned, Ainsley, is very interesting. I do think this generation has watched their parents and their grandparents work all the time, never turn it off, and that means working after hours. And I think because of that, they're saying, I don't want that life.
Sure.
I think that's the result there.
Ken, did you say you had 3 Gen Zers at your house?
I do. Yeah,
Are you
a
doing
senior,
dry
sophomore, and a
January?
freshman.
Are you doing dry January?
I am, as a matter of fact.
Good for you.
Wow.
God bless you.
All right.
Good
Ken
job.
Coleman, thank you.
All right, so that was that new segment. And so in honor of these trends of bare minimum Mondays and quiet quitting and all this other stuff, I wanted to pull up some TikToks. Now, these TikToks, as they said, are not necessarily representative of everybody of the generation, but they're still there. So I want to take a look at them. I'm going to react to them. I have not watched. I pulled them up, but I didn't watch through it. And I'll give you my thoughts as we go along. All right, here we go.
Here's how you
Maybe it would be helpful if I actually shared the screen.
can do bare minimum Monday if you have a more traditional job. I totally get this. I used to have the same boss. The very first thing you want to do is remove any wishful thinking tasks from your list. Tuesday, you can overachieve. Once you've condensed your to-do list as much as possible, the rest of your bare minimum Monday actually happens in your brain. The reason I began this in the first place is because I was putting so much pressure on myself that it was hard for me to do anything. And one thing I know would have helped me when I was in corporate is to think to myself, where might I be putting unnecessary pressure on myself? Like, what are you overly stressed about that you just don't need to be stressed about? What can you choose to not care about today, knowing that it actually won't make a difference? Where can you choose to be a little bit nicer to yourself today? Where can you cut yourself some slack? That is where most of the bare minimum Monday work comes in. It's not actually about your schedule. Here's how
I'm okay with that. I mean, I think that there is something to kind of sliding into the week slowly, working on your mindset, making sure you're prepared for the week. I mean, I tend to prepare before the week comes up, kind of with a rough draft of knowing what I have to do in the week. I don't wait till Monday. I guess one could do that if you don't want to think about work on the weekends, but I find it less stressful to kind of have a plan in place prior to getting into the work week. Or I'll do it on Friday afternoon and think about what I have to do for the next week. But let's take a look at the next one.
Hey y'all, welcome to Bare Minimum Monday. Now, a lot of non-Gen
50,
Zers
10,
have been
3.
telling me that this trend is trash. Let's take it to the board. So say you come in on Monday and you have
She already
50
rolled her eyes.
plus emails. You have 10 new Slacks, probably more, and 3 new assignments that are probably due by the end of the week. Be fucking for real. We'll get to what we can get to. Join me for Don't Test Me.
All right. Sorry for the cursing. This is a clean stream. I told you I didn't listen to him beforehand. I probably should have. That was just kind of an overview of like the attitude of Bare Minimum Monday. It didn't really address the benefits of Bare Minimum Monday. Again, I think there is something to kind of maybe slowly chipping away things early on. I think you have to just be careful about the about, you know, what your attitude says about you as well. So I think there's two things at play here. Yeah, it is important to kind of slowly get into the week, but also what does your work ethic say about you is an important message that you want to convey publicly in a way that actually brings you that brings your name respect, you know, more than anything.
After a long holiday weekend, you might be tempted to go really hard first couple days back to work, but here's why I do the complete opposite. Despite my efforts to remove myself from the hustle culture narrative, I still remember the pressure to make up for the work I missed after a long weekend. I used to assign myself an insurmountable to-do list on Monday morning just to feel like I'm doing enough. You just had a 4-day weekend. You should be ready to hit the ground running on every project, I used to tell myself, even though my weekend was anything but restful. But now, Bare Minimum Monday is my new normal. I only do what absolutely needs to be done for work, and the rest of the day is totally free, like chores, resting, working on creative projects, moving my body, or honestly, whatever feels good. So the next time you're tempted to put a ton of pressure on yourself, maybe try doing the bare minimum instead.
The Stanley Cup thing. What's up with the Stanley Cup thing? Anyways, in my opinion, yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff that she was talking about was self-imposed. She said specifically that she would build her list and put everything in on Monday. And to me, that just seems like maybe a executive functioning or executive management problem, like learning how to manage your stuff like properly is going to be really important. So, you know, I think that that's just a case of like her not managing herself correctly. And yeah, I get it. She feels more relieved now that she's taken stuff off her plate, but there's a way to do that and to not to overstress yourself as well. I think that the woman that was talking about the second video, like 50 emails, 10 Slacks, 3 assigned projects is real. So yeah.
So I came across a video this weekend, and if you guys know who I'm talking about, can you please comment her handle down below, because I can't remember who I found this video from, but she talks about bare minimum Mondays. So essentially what that means is using Mondays as a day to just do the bare minimum. Do not go above and beyond. Don't write a million things on your to-do list. Use it as a day to prioritize your most important tasks, get them done, and then use the rest of your day for self-care, seeing friends, or whatever you want to do. And I absolutely loved this concept because I feel like I put so much pressure on myself every Monday to achieve so many different things. And then inevitably I burn out. And then the rest of the week I'm feeling kind of exhausted. And she talks about how this saves her from having burnout for the rest of the week. And she actually has a more productive week instead of feeling drained and tired because Monday she exerted all of her energy. And also it helped her with her Sunday scaries, which I found it helped me last night too. And yeah, I'm about this concept. So I'm in New York, so there's that. But I'm excited to implement this new concept because I feel like it's exactly what I need. Also, I'm sorry, it's so loud. I'm in New York.
All right. So yeah, look, here's the thing. Again, I mean, I don't think it's a problem that people ease into the week. I think that the whole and self-care is important. You know, I'll be the first one to admit that self-care is important. However, I do feel like there is more of an emphasis on, like, she's like, one of the things she said is like, oh, self-care, see your friends. Most people are actually working, so you're not going to be able to self-care individuals on the day that you are supposed to be working, right? Like, the reality is that they're going to be working, so I don't know how you're going to spend your time. But the other thing too is, like, I think that when a person who is a geriatric millennial like myself, or zillennial, or someone who is a Gen X is looking at someone who is supposed to be a like working like Gen Z. It's not about everything is about grinding. It's about how you present yourself to the world, right? Like you want to present yourself to the world as someone who cares, someone who not necessarily cares about the world, but like about yourself. How you present yourself is really important. This is part of the thing, like growing up. Now going outside in your pajamas, make sure your hair is combed or done, or whatever the case is, making sure your teeth are brushed. You know what I mean? That your clothes look appropriate when you're out in the public. And I think that Gen Z has a different kind of focus now. And you heard it in the news clip that I played a little earlier. If you're just now tuning in, you should go back and rewind it. Where they talked about that Gen Z would rather just live a middle-class lifestyle if it meant a lot less stress at work. Fair enough. They value things that don't stress them out. I think this has a lot to do with the fact that Gen Zs are a very anxious generation. They're a very anxious generation. And there are a lot of good reasons for that. There's been multiple recessions, like back to back in shorter periods of time. There's been COVID. There's been a whole bunch of things, more impactful events that have happened in their short lifetimes than in other generations. But in other generations, of course, there were wars and other things that have come up as well, more international crisis. But like the bottom line is that I think that they have this predisposition to not want to be overly stressed out. I don't necessarily find it offensive, but I do think that as a business owner or a manager at a company, you do need to learn how to manage Gen Z. You definitely have to be able to explain the whys with that generation more than any other generation. Like, like even in my generation, I feel like me getting a paycheck, I was satisfied with that, right? It's just like, hey, do your job, come in, do your job, whatever you're going to do. As long as you're getting paid, it's cool. As long as the person didn't talk to you like all the way off to the side, like you were good with that. But now, like, there's more explanation done. You have to, there's more consideration of feelings and things like that. And, good or bad, I don't know. What I know is that how you present yourself to the world is really, really important. You should have some pride in yourself and in your work ethic and your abilities, but at the same time, you should not, you should leave some space for yourself to be able to enjoy and relax. Of course, it took me years, a couple of decades to be able to get to a place like that, but it is what it is. I can see the benefits of what they're trying to say. Let's go to the next TikTok. This one is on quiet quitting. So we did 4 videos on Bare Minimum Mondays. Again, if you want to go see those, you can rewind it back and take a look at those. But now there was this whole thing about quiet quitting. I'm sure you remember. I did a video on it before, but I wanted to kind of loop back into the quiet quitting phase because people are still quiet quitting at jobs. I find quiet quitting to be more distasteful than the Bare Minimum Mondays because Bare Minimum Mondays is not about not working. It's just about organizing your day in a certain way to ease into the week. But quiet quitting is basically distasteful in my opinion. But, let's see what Gen Z has to say about this.
I just don't understand why we're not playing pretend more at our jobs. You guys are job hopping.
First of all, I have a problem with playing pretend. I don't play pretend. I'm a real human. I'm not an actor. So I'm not playing pretend from the beginning. So this video is already turning me off.
Or quiet quitting. What if my manager finds out I don't actually care about this job and I do want to just move on to something else? What if? Here's what you do. It's okay to pretend about some stuff. And I'll give you this quick, easy hack that you can do for your entire time that you're at that company. First, I get some objections all the time where it's like, well, I actually care about my job. Great. And I'm sure that there are tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of parts of your job that you don't like, but you pretend to.
How many tons and tons and tons and tons and tons? This girl hates work. You can just tell. The tons and tons and tons and tons and tons and tons and tons. She has an issue with work.
All day. Is being a senior manager of an account executive team really your passion? Really? Or do you just like some aspects of it?
Some people, yes. Might not be yours, but it doesn't mean it's everybody's.
And you like the financial aspect to it because it helps you do the rest of your life. But like, do you really, really enjoy reminding your team once a week to update Salesforce? Do you? Everyone's pretending in corporate America. Here's what you do. Come up with a goal that's hard. Not too hard. Like, let's not be delulu. Let's not get too crazy because then they'll be on to us. And find a way to regularly talk about that goal. So if you work for a pretty sophisticated company, it's more than likely going to be at your annual review because they're going to ask you what your goals are. Bonus points if you can do some type of like quarterly check-in with your boss, and then come up with like little steps to that goal that you can do throughout the quarter and just like regularly update your boss. And this will take like 0 time. Here's an example of what I would do. I would just say that I wanted to be at a department that's not even available at the city that I would work.
Are glasses that are 17 times the size of your head the end thing? Can somebody answer that in the comments? Like, are you more cool if you wear massive glasses that need windshield wipers on them? Just want to know.
Work in. Look more like I wanted to do like a lateral change. Bosses would get super excited about that because it'd be like, oh my God, that would be so cool. Like if you could create something like that, that would be so awesome. Is the company going to make an entire new department at a new city for me? Probably not. I would just come up with stuff that I could do and then talk about like quarterly or annually with my boss. I'll set up like a coffee chat with a decision maker of that department in some other city. And then
you can tell that this girl explains everything to her boss. So I'm sure her boss is like, yeah, thank you for all your suggestions. She seemed like the type to give you like 1,700 suggestions on how you can make the workplace better. And she just got there like 2 days ago.
Report back to my boss and be like, yeah, they were really awesome. This is my learnings and key takeaways from that meeting. It's not like the goal is actually going anywhere. It's not like I'm actually doing any extra work. I'm doing like a coffee chat with some people. And then it looks like you're very engaged in that company. So if you are quiet quitting, or if you do plan on job hopping and getting a new job between the next 1 to 2 years, you can do that peacefully without having to be like micromanaged. This is how I never got laid off or fired or anything like that when I was quiet quitting, because it still makes me look like I'm engaged. It takes like 0 time. You're doing like fake work essentially.
I hope that her boss is watching this. I really do. But beyond that, you see, did you hear you hear how much she's talking? She is spending so much time trying to avoid work that she could just work and it would be fine.
All work is fake. Like meetings are mostly about other meetings. Like the entire idea is fake.
The one thing that we agree on is that meetings suck. Yes, they do. And people have too many meetings.
I just don't understand.
So that's her. I probably wouldn't. I don't know. I find her personality distasteful. That's the nicest thing I'm going to say about her. Next. Oh, okay. HR on quiet quitting. Let's see what the HR lady has to say about this.
Only 1 cup. I don't know why it came out like that. What's up? Quiet quitting? I have heard. Yeah.
And by the way, quiet quitting to me is just a sign that you need to be a grown-up and just talk. If you're stressed out at work and there's stuff going on that you don't like, just be an adult. Talk to your boss. And instead of talking at 1,000,000 miles a minute, try to actually just communicate how you're feeling. If you're feeling overwhelmed, don't just be like, I'm not going to do this, and be passive aggressive about it. Children are passive aggressive. Adults communicate.
Basically, the idea that people are burnt out, so they're not actually quitting their jobs, but they're quitting going above and beyond, so they're not letting their job take over their life. What do I think? I don't love the quiet part, but I get it. What employee is going to tell their boss, I'm too stressed, I need help finding balance? Not enough. So they either stay stressed, or they actually quit, or they take steps to decide to do it themselves and quiet quit. Do I think our people are? I don't know, but a good way would be to bring it up. Take out the quiet part. I bet a ton of executives are having this same conversation, but not raising it to employees. What if you were to ask employees, what do you think about quiet quitting? Many might be shocked that you're bringing it up at all. But managers have to be open to finding ways to have conversations about productivity, having their own lives. I'm happy to write out what they can say. This is not a wing it topic. Hey, Luke, only 1 cup.
Yes, be an adult. I agree with some of this. Are executives having discussions about how burned out they are? Maybe they're saying I'm tired, but executives tend to be super A-type driven individuals who kind of appreciate the grind over time. And yeah, it gets to them too. And they typically tend to be more highly stress resistant, which is why they can go longer. But yeah, I mean, don't be passive aggressive. You should talk. All right. You're an adult human. So talk. Mr. Wonderful, what do you have to say?
If you're a quiet quitter, you're a loser.
I can't say I wasn't expecting him to say that.
You're un-American. This is the dumbest idea I've ever heard in launching a career. It's against what we do in business. We try and build teams that work together to achieve something. If you're a quiet quitter, you're a loser. You're un-American. This is the dumbest idea I've ever heard in launching a career. It's against what we do in business. We try and build teams that work together to achieve something. If you're
My man has on I don't know what those are, some kind of Hawaiian parachute pants. But look, he's right, man. Just change jobs if it's too stressful for you, I guess. I mean, I guess that's the best you can do. Quiet quitting is stealing, in my opinion. I'm sorry, it just is. That's how I see it. It's passive aggressive. It's stealing. You need to communicate better. Maybe your manager can help ease your load a bit, but the reality is that working at companies and trying to help the company out requires some sacrifice on your part, and it's going to require work. There's a reason why the higher you go up in companies, the more competitive it is to get those jobs. It's because they require a tremendous amount of work and a tremendous amount of fortitude. So if you're the kind of person who's just happy to stay in the kind of the middle rung of the company, I mean, that's fine. But, we get out of life what we put in. And it sounds like that's what's happening with everyone here that we're looking at the video at.
Becker's Hospital Review recently published a story on quiet quitting, and I just want to amplify it here. A huge example. I'm still so shocked. So the facility that I'm currently at is obsessed with productivity. Productivity meaning that if you cannot show staff in rooms actually assisting with surgery, then administration wants you to send that staff home. That means a lot of the ancillary tasks don't get done. Organizing the operating room, organizing equipment, making sure rooms are set up appropriately, checking expiration dates on all the supplies so nothing inadvertently gets used that's expired. There's a ton of prep work that goes into doing surgery. So we typically pull cases for the next day, the day before. Even on Fridays, they pull the cases for Monday. We have a whole team of people that pulls the soft goods or disposable goods, and then we have a team of people that pulls the instruments, which is usually the staff, the operating room staff, nurses and techs. On Friday, they didn't have very many procedures on the board, so they cut like 10 people, and I was one of them. So they ran a skeleton crew to show productivity, and guess what didn't get done? Not only did the Friday staff not pull the instruments, the Saturday staff didn't pull the instruments, the Sunday staff didn't pull the instruments. So come Monday, first case, we're scrambling to get all the instruments together to start surgery on time. Multiple cases were delayed. Rapid turnovers didn't get done. Logistically, it was embarrassing. How can a center with 16 ORs not have instruments pulled for Monday's cases? I've never seen a bigger example of quiet quitting in my whole life. I do think it was a reaction and response to cutting everybody's hours. I've been at this facility for 6 weeks now, and 3 of those weeks they've cut me to 24 hours. They have reached my contractual maximum for how many hours they can cut me. Now, if they cut me, they still have to pay me to sit at home. And they're strategically cutting all of the travel hours to try to make it under that window so they don't have to pay us to stay at home. And unfortunately, the staff doesn't have that option. They don't have the ability to get paid. So they could be working a full-time job, only getting part-time hours, and then they wonder why the work doesn't get done. It is something. And I don't think what's going on with me at this facility is uncommon in healthcare right now.
Yeah, so that's the interesting take on quiet quitting and her observations of what quiet quitting actually looks like in the healthcare setting. I mean, yeah, the reality is that someone has to do the work, especially in the OR. If you have an emergency room OR or an emergency OR 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 in general, seems like it behooves the operation and the interest of saving lives to be able to do those basic functions, like staff with instruments and whatever else is required to actually, function well and have the hotel operation function well, and the hospital operation function well. I mean, you got to do it. It's just kind of is what it is. I mean, So there are industries, if you decide to quiet quit, that you're just going to find yourself, shall we say, at risk of losing your job because it will be evident that you quiet quit, much like the example of the healthcare situation. But in my opinion, quiet quitting means that you just need to leave. If you're going to quiet quit, just leave that job. It is not worth your integrity to quiet quit, be passive aggressive, and to be the kind of person that just displays a blasé attitude toward work. I don't think it's good for you personally or mentally. I think that it's going to affect other areas of your life, and you're going to look for ways out of things when they're hard. I think that hard is important, especially when you're working, especially in certain aspects of life, and that you should use those aspects of life that are hard to build character, discipline, to learn, to fail so that you can learn, and to build and acquire skills that make doing the job easier over time. The biggest thing that I would be fearful of is not building resilience over time and not being able to learn from something that could teach me how to become a better whatever function I am, data analyst, telecommunications tech, doctor, instrument tech in the OR, whatever the case is, whatever job you have. The important thing is that you spend time mastering the elements of the job so that you can actually get paid more. And if that company doesn't pay you more, then take your labor to the market and let someone else pay you more. But at the end of the day, it's so important for you to master what it is that you do. You should become a master in skills, in deployment of what you're asked to do in every other way. And if you do that, you're checking a big box that can't be easily replaced. Become irreplaceable and then prove that you're irreplaceable. And then if the company doesn't pay you, then leave. But don't sacrifice your soul, your integrity, your own mental health by quiet quitting. I think it affects I think that they downplay it by giving it a nice moniker, a nice soft landing name. But I think it will eventually have too much of an effect on you personally to be considered, healthy, in my opinion. I don't think it's healthy. So that's what I think about quiet quitting. Bare minimum Mondays is a different kind of strategy that I understand the principle. I'm not too worried about bare minimum Mondays because there's like a methodology to it, and it actually still includes work. And I think it's just more about organizing yourself, which you should be doing anyway. But quiet quitting to me is just generally distasteful, and you shouldn't do it. But that's just one man's take. That's what I think. That's how I feel. So that's what I want to talk to you all about tonight, was the fact that there is a great resignation coming, and that that quiet quitting and bare minimum Mondays might not necessarily help you survive. Well, it is an employer's market. If you go ahead and just leave your job, I'm just saying, there's no guarantee that you're going to get another one. Not at all. And with the amount of, you know what? I want to show you something. I'm going to go to LinkedIn through my account. I'm going to look at jobs, and I'm going to show you how many people are applying for these jobs. All right. Let me show you. So I'm in Boston. So, okay. All right. So check this out. Check it out. Oh, I have to share it first. Pardon. Look at this. Look at how many people are applying for this job. This was reposted 16 hours ago. Over 100 applicants. And I doubt that this is the only job like that. In fact, if I go to another one, let's just go to this one. 12 hours ago. 100 applicants. Director of sales. Okay, posted 1 week ago. 99 applicants. Look at this. Oh, only 3 applicants. I guess that's all right. 3 weeks ago, over 100 applicants. Every single one of these jobs. Senior Vice President, Head of Global Growth Marketing. 43 applicants. I feel like sometimes jobs are so they require you have to have a certain kind of resume, so maybe there's not, but I gotta find where are the applicants. One time I saw a job that had like over 300 applicants. It's wild. I don't know how these people looking for a job are finding jobs. It is too crazy out. It's so crazy out there for people looking for jobs. Anyways, all right. So that's it. Why do people quit their jobs? Why are they quitting right now? Well, we went over that. I appreciate you turning in tonight for the live show. I will be back on Thursday afternoon, 1 p.m. Thursday. I'm doing an interview with an expert, and then back again for a live show next Monday. Unless something happens in business. If something happens in business, I will live stream it and then we will do it. I want to hear from you though. Is there something that you want me to review, to go over that I haven't, that you've seen that's come up, you want me to talk about? Just put it in the comments and let me know. Something like with AI or Elon Musk or whatever the case is in the world of social media, and I'll take a look at it and I'll break it down here for you. All right, Micah, I appreciate you tuning in tonight for the live show, and I will see you Thursday afternoon for the next interview on the Common Sense Show. Have a good few days. Take care. Bye.